This is the infamous stage Bubzia in the Darkworld of Super Mario 64. As the first Bubzia stage of the game, it ramps up in difficulty for casual players, and even high-level speedrunners fear this stage like no other. The key point to this stage, especially in the 16-star category, are the red coins, since the stage is mostly a linear path. Speedrunners can optimize their times by quickly collecting all 8 red coins on the way to Bubzia, only losing a few seconds at best in the process, but in return getting a whole star for their speedrun. Since this stage is such an essential part to saving time, of course people focused on optimizing it over and over again. But what about the blindfolded speedrun? Now, with the most recent 16-star world record in Super Mario 64, there has been a historic turn of events. Why? Because it is the first blindfolded SM64 record besides 120-star to implement the Darkworld Red coin star in a run while actually saving time. In this video, we will take a look at the history of this incredibly difficult star and how ideas from multiple individuals made it possible to consistently do in speedruns in 2024. Let us begin by subscribing to this channel and talking about the early beginnings of the star. The world first completion of the Darkworld Red star happened on October 13th, 2018. The person to achieve this goal was no other than Katun 24, a veteran blindfolded speedrunner of multiple games who has just a couple of weeks ago succeeded in the world's first 70-star speedrun of Super Mario 64 and, seeking a new challenge, started to try how many stars of Super Mario 64 are actually possible while blindfolded. Before trying this star, he already got all the way to 87 out of 120 stars, and his next project was Darkworld Reds. It was a very interesting completion, as he managed to grab all red coins and spawn the star after only 8 minutes into the attempt, but then got lost for a whole 20 more minutes in the last section of the stage. As he told me later, he was heavily underprepared for this attempt, but it still magically worked out somehow. The final time of the star grab was 28 minutes and 22 seconds. But what about the strats that Katun used to get all the red coins? Let us take a closer look at those, as these strategies are the foundation of the routes we are using today. The first thing to notice is that Katun used the metal cap to avoid the fire spitter. Yes, that is right, there is a metal cap in Darkworld, and it had found use for probably the first time in the world as well. Anyways, Katun used the metal cap to make Mario invincible against the flames, and then used a combination of beat counting to stop exactly on the switch and normalized backflips to collect the coin in all safety. The second coin really shows Katun's specialty, beat counting. Katun was actually the person who taught me this technique back in 2018. Basically, you take the BGM of whatever stage you are in and then count the beat in rhythm, kind of like a metronome. Based on that beat, you can then count and input different actions on the controller. You can see him precisely grabbing the red coin without falling down, all through precise counting of the beat. The next coin is probably the easiest in the stage, as you just need to hold straight up on the crystal path. But what about the next 2 coins? These are surely the most problematic ones, as both of them are on moving platforms and need you to either be extremely lucky or with using music cues. As cycles in SM64 are mostly global, meaning that everything starts moving as soon as you enter the stage, you can memorize a specific part of the music and, once you are in position, just wait for that music cue to play. This way, you can have an exact understanding of where the platforms are, because you memorized them together with your movement beforehand. One more long jump gets you pretty safely to the next red coin, and from there, Katun actually first crossed the seesaws onto the upper platform, then used some beat counted jumps towards the next coin, and finally used the geometry to safely get to the last red coin. Besides getting lost at the end, this star already looked really fast, implemented lots of fast and fluid beat counting movement, and clocked in with collecting all reds in under 9 minutes, which is extremely impressive. Katun afterwards never attempted the star again though, as his goal was completion and not optimization. Even so, this single star record stood for almost 3 whole years until April 25th in 2021. This was until I personally started routing 120 star. More than a whole year before I finished the world's first Blindfolded 120 star in May 2022, I was already practicing for it with individual stars, all the way back in early 2021. Of course, one of the stars I had to tackle on my way was Darkworld Reds. While Katun focused mostly on consistency and completion, I had a different speedrunning motivation at the time. I wanted consistency to finish 120 star, but I also wanted speed, as any additional minute would mean another mental burden in an 11+ hour speedrun. So this is what I came up with. For the first coin, I used a fast approach to the flame, and then stopped right in front of it. With a little beat count, I positioned myself right in front of the switch, and then listened for the flame to run over it and instantly go back to the red coin in the beginning. My exact position was not important, because I renormalized with this ledge here. I also used a quick double jump dive to perfectly space myself with the red coin, and with a little beat count it was mine. After a few normalized movements and beat counts, I positioned myself close to the next red coin, but without actually triggering the switch. In my research, I figured out that the coin's hitbox is actually hittable without the box at all, which made this strat way easier, faster and more consistent. Instead of just walking to the next coin, I used a combination of multiple long jumps for more speed. Similarly to Katun, I memorized a music cue that indicates a perfect cycle for the next two coins. The biggest difference is that I could create my music cue much earlier than Katun, as my first coins were much faster and thus saved a lot of time in this section as well. After renormalizing on the platform with the box, a long jump gets me straight to the next red coin, and then I use a cleverly angled long jump to quickly reach the place in between the pillars, walking up and get the next red. After some normalized ledge grabs, I also finally grabbed the last red coin. The last coin grab was after only 4 minutes and 40 seconds, cutting Katun's time down by nearly half. The good thing about this strat was that I was perfectly set up to reach the star as well. I could just perform a beat counted wall kick and then use the switch to directly go to the star. The final time for the star grab was 5 minutes and 26 seconds, beating the previous world record by Katun by more than 22 whole minutes. As I said, I did continue practicing the star more than once, as my goal was to implement it in an actual 120 star speedrun. With that, there was much more room to search for optimization, and it really showed in the completion time for the star. I eventually got a recorded 4 minute and 5 second run of this star during the 120 star speedrun itself. This would stand as my best time for a long while, as I was afterwards done with 120 star in May 2022 and moved on, leaving the Darkworld Reds behind. Fast forward to February 2023, when I got a Discord message from my good friend Nico. Nico is a long-time blindfolded runner himself, known for his extensive game knowledge, and he has helped me tremendously to work out setups in the past. If there is one person in this world I would trust to give me good blindfolded Mario advice, it would definitely be Nico. But when I read what he wrote me, I literally had to laugh it off, saying that it is impossible and I will never even attempt it. Well, more to that in a second, but as you can guess, Nico had a few new ideas for Darkworld Reds. And just a couple of days later, he even posted a finished run. On January 28th in 2023, he posted this short video to our Discord. Nico successfully grabs the star at an unbelievable time of 1 minute and 40 seconds. Yet again, cutting away more than half of the time on the star. How did he achieve such an insanely fast time when everybody thought that the 4-minute completion was already really well optimized? Let us take a deeper look into this. Nico took the whole idea of beat counting a whole step further. While I previously rather counted short sections via beats, Nico beat counted everything. The entire beginning sequence is incredibly fast and fluid, and you can break down the entire movement all the way to the elevator down into one long beat count. You can see what a difference that makes. While I arrive at the elevator at 53 seconds, Nico is there already at 23. He continues to blast through the stage with high speed and then reaches the crystal. He also implemented a completely new route similar to what is done in visual speedruns. He long jumps directly to the red coin in the middle platform and then jumps back to the good old platform where we always wait for a music cue to know the position of the moving platforms. He then catches a music cue at exactly the 1 minute time marker, gets the first red coin, proceeds onto the moving platform, and then, after collecting the 6th red coin, directly does a double long jump in between the pillars to set himself up with the next red coins. Not only that, but he also skips any kind of normalization for the next coins, as it is yet again all one big fluid beat count. And with such strategies, Nico achieved the world's first sub 2 minute Darkworld Red star. And that's where we come back to Nico's crazy idea that he proposed to me earlier. Nico theorized that we could potentially create a blindfolded LBLJ plus Darkworld Reds route in 16 star and actually save some time with it. That would mean we would be able to skip Cool Mountain and Bob-omb Battlefield and instead get some other quick stars in the basement. Now, the problem in Blindfolded is we do not have that many stars that are really much faster than things we already do in Cool Mountain. And since we also have to perform the LBLJ, one of the hardest tricks in the game, in combination with one of the hardest stars in the game, Darkworld Reds, it really seemed like an absurd idea. I don't want to bore you with too much mathematics and numbers, but I of course sat down and calculated both routes and their potential time save. The result was clear. In order to save time with Darkworld Reds and LBLJ, we need to get a star grab of at least 1 minute and 50 seconds. Anything below that would be a pure time save. Everything above that, a time loss. Nico demonstrated that a 140 is potentially possible, but as I said earlier, performing LBLJ and Darkworld Reds perfectly in a no reset setting is close to impossible in terms of difficulty. All of that just for a 10-second time save really did not seem worth it. And that's exactly why I tried to optimize Nico's route as much as I possibly could. Fast forward to June 10th in 2023. That's a world record, I think. A new blindfolded Darkworld Reds world record in only 1 minute and 18 seconds. Besides more and more movement optimizations to cut out as much time as possible, the biggest novelty with this new route was yet again a new strategy for the moving platforms and their cycles in the middle of the stage. After long jumping to the middle platform, I figured out, who would have guessed, a beat count sequence that made it all the way to in between the pillars without normalizing or stopping. These strats were so optimized at this point that the blindfolded strategy started being as fast as visual beginners in the stage. There was nothing more we could come up with, and so the 118 was our final verdict for the star. Coming back to the 16 star route, that would mean we could save around 30 seconds if we perform everything perfectly. The problem, as always though, was that with more speed and less normalization, higher difficulty and more inconsistencies came into play. I tried it a few times on stream, but very quickly gave up on the idea of attempting this. The old strategy was close to perfect at this point. The only part that was still a bit slow was waiting for the cycle for the 2 reds, and especially inconsistent were the long jumps over the moving platforms afterwards. January 2024, I decided to finally come back to 16 star, and this time I was determined. I wanted to implement the LBLJ route including Darkworld Reds. As I have calculated before, we could save around 20 seconds with the route if we could somehow manage to consistently get a 1 minute 25 second star grab. While that was possible, the reward of only 20 seconds for doing not only Darkworld Reds, one of the hardest and most inconsistent stars at this point, but also the LBLJ, just did not seem worth it at all. So I made it my goal to search again for tiny time saves to at least push the star to around 1 minute and 30 seconds. I asked in my Discord for some ideas, and a community member named Honeybeef replied to me with a video all the way back from August 2022, which would change the star forever. Honeybeef was playing around with some alternative strategies for Blindfolded Darkworld Reds at the time, and even shared the video around, but the strategies presented did not find a lot of use back then, and me and Nico quickly forgot about it. Upon rewatching though, I noticed one particular part that really stood out to me. It was a completely different red coin order on the moving platforms. This strat seemed really fast, and it was a star order that me and Nico have not really thought about much before. It would eliminate the treacherous long jump to the middle platform, as well as the long jumps across the moving platforms afterwards. But it had one major issue. How do we get to the next set of coins from here? Honeybeef proposed to take the bridge and traverse it with some normalized movement, but that seemed really slow compared to our current route. But then, only a few hours later, another video dropped, this time by Nico. "I think this is pretty good," he said. Nico took the idea from Honeybeef and created the perfect solution for all of our problems. By continuing the beat count all the way from the crystal across all 3 red coins at once, you can actually long jump straight to the moving platform and then right in between the 2 pillars like in the old strat. And as if it was fate, the cycles perfectly aligned for the moving platforms to be synced with our timing. Now it gets interesting. Nico used the so-called 41 cycle in his showcase. The naming comes from the music cue we use at the crystal to initiate the whole beat count sequence. Each cycle of the platforms is roughly 4 seconds long. After a bit of routing, Nico concluded that this strat should save exactly 1 cycle compared to the old strat, plus the fact that this is much more lenient to catch the cycle and consistent to actually perform. That would already mean a new 4-second time save. And that is where I also sat down and started labbing some crazy ideas. I have focused my routing on the beginning of the stage, trying to cut even 1 more cycle than Nico in order to save another 4 seconds. But what I found was astounding. A potential 31-second arrival at the crystal. That would mean not 1, but 2 full cycles faster than Nico's theoretical route. The elusive 33 cycle. How is that possible? The beginning was already insanely optimized as it is. Well, the key point to this route change was already implemented in 2023 in 16-star speedruns, in the Darkworld route that does not use reds. Fellow runner Handyman found that by utilizing high speed and a crouch underneath the flame, you can long jump onto the rotating platform right when it forms a tiny gap, which allows you to instantly double jump out of it. Paired together with a triple jump wall kick and yet another double jump on the elevator, it creates an insanely fast way of traversing the beginning. Of course, this strat is extremely difficult to pull off, but luckily we made it semi-consistent with practice, and even more so, we were blessed that the cycle of the moving platform in no reds perfectly aligns to make this tiny gap for the double jump, and that the elevator is right in position to jump off of it as well. Now, in order to catch this cycle, we need to go fast in the beginning with the 2 first reds, and I mean really fast. I quickly made some new strats, cutting down all the unnecessary movement, cutting corners closer, and most importantly, not normalizing anymore at the ledge for the second red coin. If everything is perfect, I could catch the moving platforms, perform the triple jump wall kick, and make my way to the RNG amps. If any mistake is made or a single amp hits you, it is impossible to catch the 33 cycle anymore. But remember what I said earlier, the 33 cycle is actually 2 cycles faster than Nico's 41 cycle. So, for consistency's sake, I just memorized a 3rd cycle, the holy 37 cycle. While attempting to do Darkworld Reds, it is extremely unlikely to actually catch the 33 cycle, because some amps will always snipe you, but the 37 cycle can be catched even with up to 2 amp hits if you are fast. This is great news for consistency and actual 16-star speedruns. After getting past all the cycles, I also optimized the ending movement a bit more, to grab the last 2 red coins and finally finish the first run with the new strats. 1 minute and 8 seconds. A whooping 10 seconds faster than the previous world record, and not even with the fast cycle yet. In theory, another 4 seconds can be saved with the 33 cycle. And guess what? On February 12th in 2024, that is exactly what happened. And not only in practice, but in an actual speedrun. And not only in any run, but literally in the new 16-star world record. First time using the new LBLJ route. "33 cycle, dudes! Let's go!" World record! There we have it. The world's first performance of the 33 cycle in an actual speedrun. With this speed, doing Darkworld Reds now saves up to 40 to 50 whole seconds in 16-star. This is the single biggest time save routing wise since what feels like the beginning of time. As always though, can we go even faster? Unfortunate news, but probably not. The fastest time I have hit the crystal so far is a high 31 seconds. We would either need to shave off even more time in the beginning somehow, or find even faster strats after the crystal normalization. Both seem pretty unlikely right now, but as always, maybe one day. To conclude all of this, I just want to emphasize how crazy it is that we can actually hit the 33 cycle blindfolded. The next cycle that we could possibly catch is at 29 seconds, or the 29 cycle. Do you know what the 29 cycle corresponds to? A visual Shigeru cycle. That is correct. If we go any faster in Blindfolded, we will quite literally start tying intermediate visual strategies just without looking, in this treacherous stage full of cycles, precise movement and random enemies. But hey, maybe one day we will reach this level of gaming as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked my first documentary video about blindfolded speedrunning. There is much more to come in the future, so if you liked it, absolutely leave me a sub here, give me some feedback in the comments and like the video. You can also check out my Patreon, where I will now start giving early access to those videos, as well as announcing the next ideas early. Big shoutouts to King Roops, Boris, Bob Farrell, Benlitz and Zeke's Many, and all the other ones for all the support. Thank you, see you next time with more blindfolded awesomeness, and goodbye.